All right. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Loretta.
So nice to see you again and have you on here. And just to be able to talk to you because it's been so long.
It has been. And I'm so happy to be here and to be sharing my a little bit about my Reiki journey. So thank you for asking me to come on and talk about this element of I guess my life's journey, my journey as a practitioner as well. And it has been a little while. The months are going really quick. We're already in March.
That's crazy. And so you graduated just before Christmas, didn't you?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was like mid-December, and it was a really nice time to, I guess, cap off a year of is it a year? It was a different year for so many different reasons for different people. So it was nice for me to. I started my Reiki Masters journey last year, and I finished it as well. And I felt like because of the year that it was and the transition that I was going through, that it was a really nice one. It was a beautiful experience for me in terms of timing, not to take away from some of the challenges and the difficulties that I faced in that year of transition. And because last year was the year that it was, that presented so many new challenges for many of us, including myself. So yeah, it was December I finished off, and it's been, it was an amazing journey while I was journeying through the masters and thereafter.
Let's recap a little bit about your Reiki journey, and then we'll also circle back and talk about what's happening since you've graduation. So I didn't teach you level 1 and 2 Reiki, and
I think you did not level
I
one, but
did
two.
two.
We
Did
did two.
two.
Yeah, I think we did
That's
two
right.
and
We did
three together.
two and
It
three
was
together, didn't we?
like
That's right.
intensive.
Yes. And you know what? When I think about that day when you did your level 2 and 3A with me, I absolutely can sit here and I am just amazed at the growth since that particular time. And I remember specifically, like, I'll let you share and introduce a little bit about your background, but you came in and you were still very much in like your science kind of, driven really by this scientific. You were looking for processes, and you were like trying to ask me all these questions about, okay, well, what, if I do X and Y, is that equal this and it? And
Definitely.
I remember having those conversations with you during that class, and I was like, oh boy, this is really interesting. And it made me stop and think as well, because all of my students teach me. I've got to tell you, like, every one of you guys always teaches me so much, because I go in believing that I'm a student always. Um, and I remember that was specifically it was an interesting starting point for you. And knowing that, whoa, this is going to be really needing to get you to soften and kind of trust and lean in a lot more, rather than being attached to, these kind of scientific processes and things, which is all part of your background. So do you want to introduce everyone to a little bit about this beautiful background of yours, and how, I guess, you came to discover Reiki in the first place?
Oh, wonderful. Yes. When you were just before I go into a little bit of my background and how I came to Reiki, I do remember being quite methodical. And I even remember asking you, so why do we need to do a symbol X time? Why is it this and not four, or why is it three and not four, not five? I remember being so inquisitive, curious, but also quite methodical, and trying to work all that out. And you're right in that I guess my Reiki journey has been a journey of dipping into intuition, into inner knowing, and not necessarily always relying on methodology and processes. Of course, they're important, they have a place. But this journey for me has been one of exploring, I guess, the aspects that are not necessarily tangible, but very profound in their own right. So a little bit about my background, or what I do today as a practitioner. I am a holistic and integrative nutritionist and an energetics practitioner, and the founder of Food Spirit Wellness, which is, I guess, my practice basically combines nutritional, lifestyle, and energetic medicine all together in a very bio-individual way for health, healing, and well-being. My background is in science. I'm a trained nutritionist and food scientist and research nutritionist. So I spent a great deal of my career thus far, up until the second half of last year, in a teaching and research position at Deakin University. And how I came to Reiki, a little bit about that was, I guess it was my being drawn to Reiki was my first real taste for what an intuitive or a pull towards something felt like. So up until that point, so we will rewind back to 2018, I was pregnant with my third child. And I recall, I can't even remember the full details, but I remember there was something that pulled me towards looking into Reiki. Now, I'd never had a Reiki treatment before. I had other treatments before, like Bowen. I was practicing yoga on and off for, 15 years prior, and dibble dabbled in some other elements in the energetic space, but not Reiki. But something was, it just pulled me towards Reiki. For a minute, but so I can't even remember. Yeah, like I said, I can't even remember what it was, but I remember just this pull, and I just had to research it fully. And then I'm like, I just feel like I have to train in it. So who's around in the area teaching it? And that's when I found my first teacher. I wanted someone that was very local, and she was a lovely teacher. And I recall, doing my level 1 and just knowing that I was in the right place when I was doing it. I didn't exactly know why. So yes, it was my very first touch of really dipping into that intuitive sensation pool and going with it, rather than trying to put logic to everything. Because really at that time, Loretta, I was working my university job 4 days a week. I was pregnant with my third, and I had 2 children under 6. So with the list of demands and activities that I was engaging in, it really, logically, why would that feature in my list? Speaking logically, right? Thinking, why would I add something to my list? But I did, because I decided, I don't know why, but I'm going to do it. And the journey just went from there. So I had my third child, I had a bit of a break, and then I remember getting in touch with yourself, Loretta, to further my Reiki study. I liked your combination of, you had the coaching aspect, but you also coupled crystal therapy in the mix. And I just loved it. I was being drawn to crystals. So I thought, well, Loretta seems like a great match at the moment for me, in terms of a guide and a teacher, and someone that I can work with to further my Reiki journey.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that little recap. It is fascinating, like you said, in terms of logically, it doesn't make sense. Like what, and I think so many people can also really resonate with what you're saying and relate to it, because Reiki does feel like that. It pops up in people's lives exactly as you just described it. It's almost like, oh, I've got to look into this, or what is Reiki, or and it's this magnetic pull. That's the best way that I can explain it. It is just this pull, and that is exactly the time to honor it. And whenever someone is asking me if, should I study? Is it for everyone? They're questioning whether or not it's right for them. That is something that I always say, is that I can't tell you if it's right. You will just feel this pull, and it feels like a hell yes. It's just like, I just need to do this. I don't know why, but I have to do it. And I love that for you, that was really your first lesson, I guess, in Reiki itself, which is really about reconnecting. Ultimately, it is about reconnecting to our truth. And for you, reconnecting with your truth, your essence, that intuitive essence of who you really are, was so important, wasn't it? It was really what a lot of our sessions were about through the Mastership, I remember. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about that, and I guess any other sort of challenges that you feel like kind of popped up through the Mastership as well?
Yeah, of course. So in terms of, yes, the mastership, I mean, all my Reiki training up until the mastership was reconnecting with myself. And I look back now, and I can see that it was very much a reconnection journey for me. And really a journey of self-discovery that led me to other modalities to learn more about myself, and feel that as though, oh, those quirks and, these little elements about me make sense now. They make sense because I am who I am. And so the Reiki journey and the mastership, particularly for me, I mentioned before, I was in a transition period. So when I came into the mastership, Loretta, I was slowly moving out of my university position. I'd been in that position for like 10 years. So I knew that it was time to move on. That inner knowing in me knew it was time to move on, but it was very difficult for me to let go of a part that I identified strongly with. It became, as I now look back, my university position was my identity for so long. But there came a time where that identity, well, there was more to me, and I realized there was more to me, and there was more work for me to do, and not necessarily in the position that I was, as much as I loved it. And so I came into the mastership with, a few challenges. And I think the major one that I'd like to share today is the shadow side of me. So I know there's some discussions about shadow, and I found that looking into that side of me, the side that I didn't necessarily want to really acknowledge all that much, I wanted to move on and feel all the positive vibes and do all the positive things, which is great and very important. But what is also important is our side that perhaps we don't necessarily want to associate ourselves with because of various reasons. And so the mastership, we explore these topics of myself that I didn't necessarily want to talk about initially. Maybe I really didn't want to acknowledge it initially, but gosh, once I did and did more work on it through Reiki and other modalities, I realized that I wouldn't be where I am today, still working on that shadow side, still acknowledging it, still honoring it, without having opened up that door to explore that area that I really wasn't comfortable with. Instead of just getting busy. So before that, Loretta, I was just getting busy. I would get busy. I would, put so many things on my list and my plate to do. So I wouldn't necessarily need to deal with elements that I really did need to deal with, because they would keep showing up in my life over and over again in different ways, but it would be the same thing that I'd be dealing with. I remember exploring the topic of not enough time or scarcity. I want to do all these things, I just haven't got enough time. And I remember exploring that very topic with you, and then looking at my shadow side. Being doing a lot of the do, and not the being. And I'm still exploring that this day to day, as part of my work as a human, as my service to my clients, my community, and the earth, I guess, in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, that was a challenge for me, is really to acknowledge that side that I didn't necessarily feel comfortable with. And probably I was more comfortable just like spiritual bypassing. That's another term that's used quite a bit, just to get to all the positive stuff. But although that's, you get there, but you don't necessarily stay there when you've got some underlying elements that do need to be looked at and explored and acknowledged.
I love it, Sarah. Everything that you're talking about, again, it's so relatable, and something that, um, I mean, this shadow aspect of who we are is something that uh, is explored in everybody's mastership, because the reality is that we are all human, and we do have this side of ourselves that perhaps we don't acknowledge, we don't want to make space for or time for. Sometimes there's a lot of shame associated with it, right? And sometimes we spend so much energy trying to hide that part of who we are. We don't want, it's something that we don't want other people to really see us for, acknowledge us for. The beautiful thing is that when we delve deep, and using Reiki, any form of energetic healing in general, when we're able to really hold ourselves in a space of wholeness, right? Where we actually are holding it, all of the self. It is the shadow aspects, and it is, all the archetypes of who we are. And when we're able to really hold ourselves in that space, and using that unconditional love, that energy of unconditional love to hold ourselves, it is so much easier then for us to have compassion and soften, rather than trying so hard to work through it or ignore it, or I just don't want it to be there. How do I get rid of this shadow? How do I, and so many of us are fixated again on, like, exactly what you said. It's the spiritual bypassing. It's trying to take a shortcut. I don't I don't want to I don't want to work through that. It's too much for me. I also don't have time to work through that. I just want to be relaxed. So I just want to be calm. I just want all the benefits, but I don't want to do the work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So learning to really connect with Reiki. And I remember I remember in level 2 and 3A, you asking me a question about, why do we have to stay there for 3 minutes? Like, why do I have to actually hold this position? Like, I've got shit to do, right? It's boring. Like, like, I'm not sure I'm getting anything out of this. Like, why do I have to sit there? And again, that's a really good example of, why do we have to sit in the discomfort of our shadow? Why do we have to sit in the discomfort of who we actually are, who we truly, truly are, right? The warts and all, the flaws and all, and allowing ourselves to be held by ourselves. Like, how special, right? Like, in our sessions, I would be practicing a distant Reiki for you, or an in-person session, and you would also be encouraged to practice Reiki on yourself, right? And that is the beauty of it, is that you're empowered to really hold yourself in that love. So it's not me. You get to this point of realizing that, whoa, hang on a second, this isn't actually Loretta. She's not the one who's doing this. She's guiding me, she's holding that space for me, but I'm healing myself, right? I'm the one who's becoming aware of this part of who I am, and I'm also learning to love her.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That self-empowerment element, very profound. And I definitely felt that. And I recall when I'd be given a new symbol, a Reiki symbol, not all of them did I connect with, but some of them, the connection was so strong. And again, reflecting on that experience, that's when I needed to hold myself in that way, utilizing some of those Reiki symbols. I needed it the most. It was amazing how that sort of that synchronistic activity happened for a number of when those new symbols came into my life, that I was able to hold myself as much as possible and really lean into who I actually was. Get the whole part of me, not just one, not one half, not one third, but the whole part. Not taking away from the challenges and the trickiness of it, though. Again, it's not just all fluffy clouds, but gosh, it's really the work is quite magical when you commit to doing the work um, in that
Yeah,
way.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess in hindsight, now it's been a few months, and what do you think the difference was that in working with me and doing the mastership? What do you feel like you got out of it, I guess?
Well, working with you, Loretta, I felt that I could just show up as I was. I didn't have to do all this. Um, yeah. So let's go with that. I had to show up as I like I was. There was that comfortable space, that safe space for me to just show up as I was. And I, at the time, had 3 kids at home. So the youngest wasn't at childcare because we're in lockdowns, and for a major part of my master journey, we were homeschooling our two other primary school age children. So I was homeschooling with my husband. And there were days where I was so frustrated and depleted and really feeling scarce, that scarcity element. Gosh, it was woven throughout my life at that time. And I was able with you, Loretta, just to show up as I was and explore those elements, like you would say, what's going on? And I could really do that without feeling as though I had to do all this other work. Like I was doing the work on myself, but wasn't I guess, those methodical processes that I needed to sort of adhere to. It was very free flowing, and that was very refreshing. And perhaps with my other studies, I hadn't really, just in general, other studies that I've done many over the years, because I'm multi-passionate. So I love, always a student, like you said, like yourself, Loretta, always a student learning. But I'd never had that opportunity to just be free flowing and go with. So at first it was a little foreign when we would open up and there wasn't that structure. But gosh, moving into it and through it, that I felt was a really it was an experience that was very nourishing, to just show up as I was and work through my mastership and myself that in that way.
That's awesome. Do you feel like, I guess, just going in and going with that rather than, allowing the old habits and the old stories of, oh, wait, you need a process or you need a method to follow this, otherwise this isn't going to work. Do you feel like, obviously, it was part of my job, I guess, to help guide you and help you get more comfortable with the free flowing aspects of life, right? And just letting go a little bit, and not worrying all the time about not enough time, or and again, being able to see the abundance in life rather than focusing on the scarcity. And trusting your intuition, that was a big one. And boy, did we uncover just how intuitive you really are.
Yeah, it was, yeah, that free flowing experienced during the masters was very refreshing, and certainly an aspect that I take with me through my work. Like I'm weaving that through my client work, so professionally, but also still personally, that I don't need to have all the answers, that it doesn't necessarily have to have a complete structure. Of course, some structure is important, but to really tap into that free flow and really celebrate the goodness that comes out of that. So I've taken that away with me, with my work,
Yeah,
personally and
that's
professionally.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. It's really this alchemy of honoring, again, the archetypes within us, the masculine and feminine energy, right?
Yeah.
The need for, yes, the structure, but there's also so much magic in just going with it and letting go of that sometimes too. It is beautiful.
Definitely.
So talk to us a little bit about what's happening now, because I feel like watching from afar now as as an observer and still following you around and seeing what you're up to, and checking in with you occasionally too. And it feels like since you graduated, things have just exploded for you. And I've got to say as well, that was also this beautiful growth for you during the mastership, because you came in and I remember you saying to me straight away, I don't think I want to see clients. I'm just not sure when, and it's just not something that's on my radar. And then towards the end, I loved when you said to me, I think I'm ready to see clients.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. Yes, it has been quite a journey. In that sort of, 8-month period. So I think I started in August-ish from memory, and finished in December-ish and thereafter. So it's been this, under a year type of a journey, and there has been an explosion and and I guess that's come about from that free flow, from that intuitive creativity and honoring it. And so I've created some offerings that have pretty much been born out of that energy, rather than in the what's the process, what's the methodology. Of course, then that cup comes along with it, but yeah, it's definitely been born out of that, very much working with the sacral and the third eye chakras, and really dipping into those, really working with that energy and that free flow and that connection of with self. So that's pretty much, helped along with the creation of what I now offer. So I, as part of Food Spirit Wellness, I offer energy healings, and I utilize Reiki healing and crystal healing, along with some other elements, some plant medicine woven throughout those. And I do offer energy healings during certain lunar phases, to help tap into that energy for healing, for health, and well-being. And I also offer what I call holistic healing and health consults, that pretty much, again, incorporate that beautiful Reiki healing energy, the crystal therapy, and some elements like medical astrology. Of course, my nutritional expertise or experience, as well as lifestyle medicine. But coupling some of these other modalities that have pretty much come into my path whilst I was on my Reiki journey. I started to attract and be drawn to other modalities. And again, because I was honoring that inner knowing that, although logically I can't quite put the pieces together, that I know I've done it before, and I know it worked out just the way it was meant to be, because I relinquished that control. So so that's what at the moment I'm offering, and I'm just moving into a physical space for for some of my face-to-face consults and healings. So there's a bit of new on the horizon, but really just dipping into, again, trusting that inner knowing and the fact that these elements have come to light because they were meant to at that given time.
So exciting. It's so, so exciting. I also remember having these discussions with you, and you're like, I don't know why, but I'm feeling drawn to study this and I want to do this. I don't even know what this all looks like. And, you know, uh, Reiki is often a gateway to so much more, because it really nurtures that intuitive self, but also into this kind of world, and gives us the confidence of, oh, I can do this. I can actually do something like this. And okay, well, I've done that. What else can I do? And how can I incorporate it all together? And obviously the energetics piece is so important, right? It really is important in terms of every aspect of who we are, even, and that even from a scientific perspective. So it is that's another reason why it really does offer that gateway, because we are mostly energetic. And what you have created and what you are creating, because we are always evolving, but the fact that you have honored the multi-dimensional practitioner and absolute amazing soul that you are, Sara, I'm so honored to have guided you on this path, and I'm really, really excited to continue watching your journey, and really watching you step more and more into your power. It's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much, Loretta. It's been amazing an experience working with you, and your energy, and with your experience, and watching you and your business evolve too. I think is very refreshing as well, and it provides beautiful substrate for myself, going, wow, Loretta's working on these different activities, and there is evolution there. So I feel like it's beautiful substrate to sort of see that from afar and go, wow, that is doable. It's normal. Because sometimes it depends which culture we reside in, but in the culture that I was sort of working in, again, culture, I'll use that term loosely, but you sort of study this and you be that, study this, you do that, or you do this work to do that. But it's nice that looking at your journey as well, that we can sort of feed off each other, other people within the community as well, that that we are evolving humans, personally and professionally. And you're right, Reiki was definitely, well, for me, I can talk personally, that it was very much that gateway. Like I talked about, rewind back to 2018, I was dibble dabbling, but there wasn't much there on that energetic side until I started to really sit in the space of Reiki and go with it. That's when things just went boom, slowly, not all at once, maybe a little faster at certain points than others, like in the last 6 months. But prior to that, it was, it was still a boom. It was just a smaller boom, but it was definitely the gateway.
Oh, thank you so much, Sara, for
Thanks,
your
Loretta.
time.
Oh,
And
thank you.
And can you just let everyone know, I guess, in terms of where you're located, how people can get in touch with you, and how they can work with you as well?
Wonderful. So I have a website that's in the works. So at the moment, the easiest way to get in touch with me is via my Instagram and Facebook page, Food Spirit Wellness. And so both of those on those two socials. And I will be moving into Prana House in Thornbury. So for 1 day a week, I'll be moving there to do face-to-face healings and consults. So that's where people can find me at the moment. Yeah. Oh,
Yay.
thank you so much, Loretta. Oh, thank you for being a wonderful guide and facilitator and all this beautiful work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Love you.
Thank you.